Hello, welcome to Chimney Sweep's University Training Series. Today's 1-hour lesson will focus on the first few chapters of NFPA 211. If this is a free version, then interactive questions, quizzing, and answers will be turned off. If this is a paid version for continuing education unit or certification requirements, then you will be in a full interactive version. For information of where to sign up for the premium version, go to chimneysweeps.com and find the section regarding training. Good luck, and enjoy your presentation.
Right. So today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that's pretty important for anyone who's ever, dealt with chimneys, fireplaces, vents, anything that burns solid fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about NFPA 211 and specifically
Yes.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1.
Now, this might not be the most exciting read,
Right.
but trust me, understanding this stuff
Yeah.
is kind of like having an insurance policy for your peace of mind and maybe even your house.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting about NFPA 211 is that it's really kind of become the go-to guide for safety and compliance when it comes to these things across a whole bunch of states.
Really?
But here's the catch.
Okay.
It's not automatic. It's not the law of the land everywhere.
Right.
So you absolutely have to check your specific state regulations to see if they've adopted it.
So it's kind of like a popular recipe that, everyone tweaks a bit.
Exactly.
You've got the base ingredients, but the final dish really depends on where you are.
Absolutely. Think of it as the foundation. But always double check those local spices.
Right.
Now, even if your state has adopted NFPA 211, there's another layer to this whole thing, and that is the authority having jurisdiction.
Okay.
Or as it's often called, the AHJ.
The AHJ. So you're building this beautiful new fireplace. You think you've followed all the rules, and then this AHJ person shows up.
Right.
Who are they to tell you what to do?
Well, the AHJ is really kind of the referee of the construction world when it comes to these things.
Okay.
So it could be your local building inspector, the fire marshal, or someone similar.
Okay.
But basically, they're the ones who make the final call on how NFPA 211 is actually applied and interpreted
Got it.
where you live.
So even if the standard says one thing,
Right.
the AHJ could say, nope, not happening here.
They do have that power, and it's all about ensuring safety on a local level.
Okay.
Now, one of the really interesting things about NFPA 211 is how it deals with older installations.
Okay.
Those fireplaces and chimneys that were built before the standard even existed.
Right.
And this is where retroactivity comes into play.
Ah, yes, the whole grandfather clause thing.
Yeah.
So if my fireplace is older than the standard, I'm off the hook.
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
Well, the standard generally doesn't force you to rip out and rebuild perfectly functional older installations.
Right.
There is a big caveat.
Okay.
If the AHJ determines that existing setup is a safety hazard, they can absolutely enforce relevant parts of NFPA 211, even if your fireplace predates the standard.
So it's like, hey, we respect your old fireplace, but if it's a danger to you or your neighbors,
Exactly.
you got to step in.
Precisely, safety always trumps nostalgia. But don't worry, NFPA 211 isn't completely heartless.
Okay.
It recognizes that blindly applying new rules to old structures can be impractical, even ridiculous in some cases.
Yeah.
So it allows for some flexibility.
Okay, so there's wiggle room. Tell me more about this flexibility.
So if the AHJ determines that meeting the current standard exactly is impractical for an older installation, and they can be convinced that a reasonable level of safety can still be achieved, they can approve modifications to those retroactive requirements.
Got it.
It's a balancing act
Yeah.
between enforcing modern safety standards and acknowledging real-world limitations.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not about being a stickler for the rules. It's about finding solutions that actually work.
Right.
Now, Chapter 1 also mentions this thing called equivalency.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Equivalency is where things get really interesting, especially if you're someone who likes innovation.
Okay.
You see, NFPA 211 is smart enough to realize that there might be all sorts of ways to achieve the same level of safety, even if you're not following the exact methods outlined in the standard.
So it's not just about ticking boxes.
Right.
It's about achieving the desired outcome.
Exactly. It's a performance-based approach.
Okay.
So let's say you've got this brilliant new chimney design that uses cutting-edge materials or a totally different construction method. If you can prove to the AHJ that your alternative is just as safe,
Right.
or even safer than what the standard prescribes,
Yeah.
they can give you the green light.
That's pretty cool. It encourages people to come up with better solutions
Exactly.
while still ensuring safety.
Right.
But what if you've got this brilliant new chimney design
Yeah.
and the AHJ is like, not so sure about this?
Right.
What happens then?
Well, in that case, NFPA 211 lays out a clear process.
Okay.
The AHJ can require you to conduct tests to prove your claims.
Oh, so you got to bring your A game
You do.
and back up your claims with hard evidence.
That's right. Think of it like a science fair for chimney design.
Okay, but who pays for all these tests?
Well, the burden of proof and the cost of those tests falls squarely on the shoulders of the person proposing the alternative.
Oh, so
They have to convince the AHJ, and that often means shelling out some cash for testing.
I see.
And these tests have to follow specific methods, either those outlined in NFPA 211,
Right.
or if the standard doesn't specify whatever the AHJ deems appropriate.
So it's like, you want to be innovative? Great. Just show us it actually works.
Exactly. It's a system designed to encourage progress while never compromising on safety.
Yeah.
It allows for flexibility, but also demands accountability.
Okay, so to recap what we've learned so far about Chapter 1 of NFPA 211, it sets the stage for everything else, basically saying, here's what this whole standard is about, making sure those chimneys, fireplaces, vents, and solid fuel burning appliances are designed, installed, maintained, and inspected in a way that keeps people and property safe.
And don't forget those key concepts of retroactivity and equivalency.
Right.
Chapter 1 lays out how the AHJ can apply the standard to older installations and how you can propose innovative solutions as long as you can prove they're up to snuff.
It's like a roadmap for navigating the world of chimneys and vents, complete with detours for tricky situations. But what about the actual nuts and bolts of this standard? What kinds of chimneys and vents are we talking about here?
That's where things get really interesting. We're about to explore a whole zoo of chimney and vent types, from the classic to the cutting edge. Buckle up.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, so we've got this whole universe of chimneys and vents out there.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking everything from those classic brick chimneys that you see on old houses to those sleek metal ones that seem to just sprout up overnight,
Yeah.
and then everything in between.
So it's not just like one size fits all.
Right.
How does this standard handle all that variety?
Right.
Does it have a separate rule book for every type of chimney out there?
Well, it doesn't have a separate rule book for each one,
Okay.
but it definitely gets into the specifics.
Okay.
It covers a wide range, from masonry chimneys, built with brick and mortar,
Right.
to factory-built metal chimneys that are kind of like prefab kits.
Okay.
You've got your single wall and double wall metal pipes,
Uh-huh.
special gas vents, pellet vents,
Wow.
even those designed for specific types of appliances,
Like
like
that.
Type B and Type L gas vents.
It sounds like a chimney and vent enthusiast dream catalog.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
So how does the standard actually address all those different needs and requirements?
Right. Well, that's where the real meat of the standard lies.
Okay.
It breaks down the requirements for each type of chimney and vent,
Okay.
covering everything from the materials you can use to how it's constructed. It even gets into things like how far it needs to be from anything that could catch fire
Right.
and how high it needs to stick up above your roof.
So, for example, if I'm dealing with like a good old-fashioned brick chimney,
Right.
what kind of things would NFPA 211 tell me?
Well, if you're going the masonry route,
Okay.
the standard gets pretty detailed.
Okay.
It tells you what types of bricks and mortar you can use, how thick those walls need to be,
Uh-huh.
whether you need a liner,
Right.
how to properly support that liner.
Okay.
It even covers things like clean-out openings,
Yeah.
fire stopping,
Okay.
and ensuring you've got enough clearance from anything flammable.
Sounds like they've thought of everything.
Yeah, they've done their homework.
What about those factory-built metal chimneys?
Right.
Those seem to be pretty popular these days.
You're right. Those are all the rage now.
Yeah.
And NFPA 211 doesn't skip a beat.
Okay.
It specifies the types of metal you can use, how thick that metal needs to be, what kind of insulation it needs,
Uh-huh.
and how far it needs to be from anything that could burn.
Okay.
It even lays out how to connect those factory-built systems to appliances
Right.
and how to make sure they're properly supported and terminated.
Wow, it's like a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, it's pretty thorough.
But it seems like things that get pretty complicated when you factor in all the different appliances that need venting. Everything from furnaces to fireplaces to wood stoves.
Right.
How does the standard handle all that?
That's a great question because matching the right venting system to the right appliance is absolutely crucial.
Right.
You wouldn't want to vent a roaring wood stove the same way you would a cozy gas fireplace.
Yeah, no kidding.
So luckily, NFPA 211 is on top of this.
Okay.
It actually has tables and charts.
That spell out which types of chimneys and vents are suitable for different categories of appliances.
So it's like a matchmaking service for appliances and vents.
Exactly.
Love it.
For instance, It might tell you that a Type B gas vent is perfect for certain types of gas appliances that have draft hoods,
Okay.
while a pellet vent is specifically designed for, well, pellet burning appliances.
Right, right.
It takes a lot of the guesswork out of the equation.
That's super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the standard is leaving no stone unturned. But what about those more modern setups, like those direct vent appliances I've been hearing about?
Right.
Those seem a bit different from your typical chimney situation.
Those are definitely a different breed.
Okay.
Direct vent appliances are like self-contained units.
Okay.
They pull in combustion air from outside and then send the exhaust right back out,
Uh-huh.
often through a single unit.
Interesting.
And guess what? NFPA 211 addresses these too.
Oh, wow.
It provides specific guidelines on how to install them.
How far they need to be from any openings into the building, and how to make sure they're properly terminated.
Okay, so it's got the classics covered, and it's keeping up with the latest trends.
That's right.
Is there anything the standard doesn't address?
You'd be surprised by how comprehensive it is. You might not think of it at first,
Okay.
but even something like a clothes dryer exhaust falls under the umbrella of chimneys and venting.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought those were just like flimsy metal tubes that went out the back of the house.
Don't underestimate those dryer vents.
Okay.
They might seem simple, but they carry hot, moist air.
Right.
And if they're not properly installed or maintained, they can actually pose a fire hazard.
So it's not just about the big stuff like fireplaces and furnaces.
Right.
It's about anything that produces exhaust
Exactly.
that needs to be safely vented.
That's the point. NFPA 211 takes a holistic approach
Okay,
to safety, covering a wide range of appliances and scenarios.
that makes sense.
But even with all these different types of chimneys and vents, there's one component that often gets overlooked, and it's actually super important: the chimney connector.
The chimney connector, that sounds like something I should probably know about.
Yeah.
What is it exactly?
So think of the chimney connector as the bridge between your appliance
Okay.
and the chimney or vent itself.
Okay.
It's that crucial link
Got it.
that carries those hot combustion products
Right.
from point A to point B.
Okay.
And because it's subjected to high temperatures and potential corrosion, NFPA 211 pays very close attention to how it's constructed and installed.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What kind of things does the standard specify about these chimney connectors?
It gets pretty granular.
Okay.
So depending on the type of appliance and fuel you're using,
Right.
NFPA 211 dictates what materials are allowed, how thick they need to be.
Yeah.
It also covers things like how far the connector needs to be from anything flammable,
Okay.
whether it can pass through floors or ceilings,
Yeah.
and the correct methods for connecting it to the chimney or vent.
Okay, so if I'm installing like a wood-burning stove,
Right.
what are some things I'd need to keep in mind about the chimney connector?
Well, first and foremost, you'd need to make sure that connector is made of an approved material,
Okay.
like stainless steel, and that it's thick enough
Right.
to withstand the heat from that wood fire.
Right.
You'd also have to make sure it's properly insulated and that it's got enough clearance from any nearby combustible materials, like the framing of your house or any insulation.
And what about actually connecting it to the chimney?
Right.
Are there specific rules for that as well?
Absolutely. The connector should extend through the wall and meet the inner face of the chimney liner,
Okay.
but it shouldn't go beyond that point.
Right.
It also needs to be firmly cemented to the masonry.
Okay.
And if you're using a thimble,
Uh-huh.
that needs to be permanently cemented in place as well.
It sounds like those connections are really important
They are.
for preventing any leaks and making sure those hot gases are going where they're supposed to go.
You got a properly installed chimney connector is essential for a safe and functional system.
Okay.
But even with the perfect chimney and connector, there's one more crucial element we need to talk about: draft.
Draft like a cold breeze.
Not quite the same kind of draft.
Okay.
In the chimney world,
Uh-huh.
draft is the driving force that moves those combustion products
Okay.
up and out of the chimney or vent.
Right.
Think of it like a river current carrying debris downstream.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it needs to be strong enough to pull all those nasty byproducts up and out of your house.
So it's not just about building a chimney.
Right.
It's about making sure it actually functions properly.
Exactly.
Like it's got good airflow.
A well-designed and properly installed chimney system needs good draft.
Got it.
to ensure those combustion products are removed efficiently and safely.
Okay.
And NFPA 211 provides guidance on all sorts of factors
Okay.
that can influence draft, like how tall your chimney is,
Uh-huh.
how it's terminated, how big your connector is,
Right.
and even whether you need something called a draft regulator.
So it's like fine-tuning the system
Right.
for optimal performance.
That's a great way to put it, but you know, with all this talk about safety and regulations and making sure everything is installed just right,
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder,
What's that?
what happens if things go wrong? Are there any guidelines for inspecting and maintaining chimneys and vents once they're up and running?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked, because you're thinking ahead,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what NFPA 211 wants you to do. It dedicates a whole section to maintenance,
Okay.
including detailed inspection requirements and guidelines for cleaning and repairing chimneys and vents.
Yeah, that's where we're headed next.
All right, so we've covered, the what's what of chimneys and vents, the types, the connectors, the importance of draft.
Right.
But now, let's talk about keeping those systems, running smoothly.
Yeah.
And safely. After all, even the best-built chimney needs a little TLC every now and then, right?
You're absolutely right. And this is where NFPA 211 goes beyond just telling you how to build and install things.
Okay.
It really emphasizes the ongoing responsibility
Uh-huh.
of keeping those chimneys and vents in tip-top shape.
So it's like, okay, you've built it now, don't forget to take care of it.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive and preventing those small issues from turning into big, dangerous problems.
Right, so let's get down to brass tacks. What does the standard actually say about inspection?
Right.
Do I need to, hire a chimney sweep every other week?
Well, maybe not every other week, but
Okay.
NFPA 211 does mandate an annual inspection
Okay.
for most chimneys, fireplaces, and vents.
All right.
And this isn't just a quick peek up the flue either.
Okay.
This inspection should cover everything from the overall structural integrity of the chimney itself
Uh-huh.
to the condition of the liner, a connector, and any dampers or cleanout openings.
Hold on a second. Does that mean I need to get my chimney inspected every year, even if it's just for my gas fireplace?
That's a great question, and it highlights an important nuance in the standard.
Okay.
While annual inspections are the general rule,
Uh-huh.
there's an exception for those newer Type B and Type BW gas venting systems.
So those gas systems are off the hook, no inspections needed?
Not quite off the hook.
Okay.
While they're exempt from that strict annual inspection requirement,
Right.
they still need to be inspected whenever there's any reason to believe they might be damaged
Okay.
or not working properly.
So it's more like keep an eye on things?
Yeah.
And if something seems off,
Right.
call in the experts.
Precisely, if you notice things like soot build up any weird odors,
Hmm.
or if you feel like smoke is being pushed back into your house,
Right.
that's called backdrafting,
Okay.
then it's definitely time to call in a qualified professional to take a look.
Makes sense. It's about being proactive and addressing those potential issues before they snowball into something bigger. But let's go back to those annual inspections for a minute. What exactly should they entail?
Well, NFPA 211 provides pretty detailed guidance on what those inspections should cover.
Okay.
It emphasizes visually examining all readily accessible areas of the flue,
Huh?
looking for any signs of damage deterioration or improper installation.
Huh.
Inspectors should also check the condition of the chimney cap,
Yeah.
the flashing, and any supports or bracing that are holding everything together.
So it's a pretty thorough once-over of the entire system, not just a quick glance.
Exactly. And remember, the standard makes it clear that cleaning, maintenance, and repairs should be done
Right.
whenever necessary, based on what the inspector finds.
Okay.
It's not just about identifying problems, it's about fixing them.
So what are some of the common issues that might pop up during an inspection?
Well, you might find things like cracks in the flue liner,
Uh-huh.
soot buildup that could restrict airflow,
Okay.
obstructions in the chimney like bird nests or debris,
Oh, wow.
damaged flashing that could lead to water leaks, right, or even loose or corroded connectors.
Okay, so those are all things that could seriously compromise the safety and efficiency of the whole system.
Right.
What happens if the inspector finds something like that? Do they shut the whole thing down?
Well, that's where the expertise of a qualified chimney professional comes in.
Okay.
They can recommend and carry out any necessary repairs or cleaning to bring the system back up to code and ensure it's operating safely.
Okay.
They're like the chimney doctors.
Okay. Good to know. Now, I've heard a lot about creosote buildup in chimneys, especially those that are attached to wood-burning appliances. Does NFPA 211 address that?
It absolutely does. Creosote is highly flammable,
Right.
and it can build up inside chimneys over time,
Yeah.
creating a serious fire hazard.
Yeah.
So NFPA 211 emphasizes the importance of proper cleaning methods to remove that buildup.
So no hacking away at it with a chisel.
Definitely not. It's best to leave creosote removal to the professionals.
Okay.
They have the right tools and techniques to do it safely and effectively. And they'll also make sure they're not damaging the chimney or impacting its thermal performance during the cleaning process.
Right, because you don't want to solve one problem just to create a new one now. Besides those regular inspections and cleanings, are there any other maintenance tasks that NFPA 211 calls out specifically?
There are a few situations that deserve special attention.
Oh.
For example, whenever an appliance is replaced or a new appliance is connected to an existing chimney, a thorough inspection is required.
Yeah.
This ensures that the chimney is suitable for the new appliance.
Right.
And that there aren't any hidden issues lurking that could cause problems down the line.
So it's not just a matter of swapping out an old stove for a new one.
Right.
There are implications for the entire venting system.
Precisely. The standard also points out the importance of keeping those clean outdoors tightly closed after any inspection or maintenance work.
Okay.
This might seem like a no-brainer, but it's crucial for preventing leaks and ensuring the chimney continues to function as it should.
It really seems like every detail matters
It does.
when it comes to chimney safety.
You're absolutely right. And while NFPA 211 provides these really comprehensive guidelines, it's ultimately the responsibility of the homeowner or the person in charge of the property
Right.
to make sure those chimneys and vents are properly maintained and compliant with all applicable codes and standards.
So to bring this all home for our listeners, why should they care about the ins and outs of NFPA 211? What's the big takeaway?
Here's the bottom line. Understanding the standard can be a real game changer when it comes to safety.
Okay.
It equips you with the knowledge to make smart decisions about your chimney and venting systems.
Yeah.
Whether you're building a new house, renovating an old one,
Right?
or just trying to keep your family safe and sound.
It's about taking control of your safety
Yeah.
and not leaving things to chance.
Exactly. And remember, while NFPA 211 provides a fantastic baseline, it's always a good idea to check with your local AHJ for any specific requirements or interpretations that might apply in your area.
So there you have it, folks. A deep dive into NFPA 211. So let's break it down.
Okay.
Section 2.1,
Yeah.
it's kind of the domino effect.
How so?
If your state, wherever you are, adopts NFPA 211, boom. All the publications listed in Chapter 2, they're adopted too.
Oh, wow. So it's like a package deal.
Exactly. And that's why, understanding these references, they become the rule book for anyone working with these systems.
Makes sense. Everyone's on the same page, safety-wise, compliance, all that.
That's it.
Okay, so where do we start?
Let's jump into Section 2.2, NFPA publications. And let me tell you, there's a list here.
Oh, I bet.
First up, NFPA 31,
Right.
the standard for the installation of oil burning equipment, 2016 edition.
Now, oil burning equipment might not be as common as it used to be, but there's still plenty out there.
Yeah. If you're-
And this standard covers, well, everything. The equipment itself, installation, operation, especially important if it's venting through a chimney.
So anyone out there with an oil furnace or a boiler, this is your go-to.
For sure.
Next on the list, NFPA 54,
Okay.
the National Fuel Gas Code, 2018 edition.
With gas fireplaces being so popular these days, this one is essential.
Absolutely. It's like the ultimate guide.
It is. Gas piping, appliance installation, preventing leaks, ensuring proper ventilation. It's all in there.
It's about peace of mind, right?
It is. Knowing your fireplace isn't going to turn into a hazard.
Right. Moving on to NFPA 72, the National Firearm and Signaling Code, 2019 edition. Now, this one you might be thinking, what's this got to do with chimneys?
Yeah, at first glance,
But fire safety, it's all connected.
you're right. If there's a chimney fire, that alarm system could be a lifesaver.
It's all about that interconnectedness.
I see.
All right, this next one, NFPA 82,
Okay.
the Standard on Incinerators and Waste and Linen Handling Systems and Equipment, 2019 edition.
Incinerators, huh? Don't see those around too much anymore.
Not so much in residential areas, but they're still out there.
Right.
And this standard, it's all about making sure those systems are operated safely, efficiently, environmentally sound, the whole 9 yards. It's amazing the range these standards cover.
It is.
Okay, NFPA 90B, Standard for the Installation of Warm Air Heating and Air Conditioning Systems, 2018 edition.
Thinking about fireplaces with those built-in fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just the fireplace, but how
Yeah.
that heat gets moved around.
And this standard ensures it's done right.
Safe, efficient, no fire hazards.
It's like a dance between all these systems.
Really is.
Next up, NFPA 96, Standard for Ventilation Control and Fire Protection of Commercial Cooking Operations, 2017 edition.
Pizza ovens.
Those big, beautiful wood-fired ones.
Yeah, this one's all about those commercial kitchens, making sure they're safe.
With all that heat and smoke.
You need a solid ventilation system.
And this standard lays it all out.
Keeps those kitchens safe and the pizza coming.
Speaking of delicious.
Uh-huh.
All right, last one on this list. NFPA 5000, Building Construction and Safety Code, 2018 edition.
Now this is a big one.
It is. It covers a lot of ground.
It's like the overarching safety net for any building.
Structural integrity, fire resistance, occupancy, it's all there.
And if that building has a fireplace, chimney, vent system, it's got to meet these standards.
It's like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure everything's in harmony.
Nice analogy.
It's incredible how these codes all work together.
It really is.
And to think, they all get adopted right alongside NFPA 211.
That's right.
It's like a hidden library.
It is.
And there's one more publication, not an NFPA document, but just as crucial.
Oh.
It's in section 2.3, under other publications.
Well, let's hear about it. It's the ASHRA Handbook, HVAC Systems and Equipment, Chapter 31 to be exact.
ASHRE, that's the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, right?
That's the one.
But HVAC, what's that got to do with chimneys in fireplaces?
It's all about ventilation, you see. Chapter 31, that focuses on vent sizing.
Vent sizing.
Yeah, it's super important to get that right, making sure there's proper airflow, especially for fireplaces and those fuel-burning appliances.
So it's not just having a chimney, but having the right-sized chimney for the job.
Exactly. Think about it. A fireplace with a vent that's too small, it's like it's struggling to breathe.
Yeah, I can see that.
You end up with smoke filling the room, inefficient burning, could even have dangerous buildups of, combustion byproducts.
Not good.
Nope. And on the flip side, a vent that's too big that might not create enough draft.
Leading to
poor performance, and again, potential safety hazards.
So it's got to be just right.
Like Goldilocks.
Exactly.
And that's where this ASHRA handbook comes in. It's the guide for figuring out those vent systems, calculating, designing, making sure everything runs smoothly, safely.
It all makes sense now.
Good.
So we've got all these NFPA publications covering all sorts of aspects of chimneys and fireplaces, and then this ASHRA handbook, making sure the ventilation is spot on.
Can't forget about that one.
And to think, it's all part of the package when a state adopts NFPA 211.
It is kind of like a bonus library.
It really is. Makes you think, though, with all these publications automatically adopted, shouldn't there be, more transparency?
What do you mean?
Well, like for folks who might not be, experts in all this stuff.
Homeowners.
Contractors. Maybe they don't realize the full scope of what they're getting into.
You're thinking they need a heads up.
Exactly. Empower them with the knowledge.
So they can make informed decisions.
Whether they're hiring a pro or, tackling a project themselves.
Or like reading the fine print.
That's it. So what do you think, listeners? Should there be more upfront disclosure about all these publications that come along with NFPA 211?
It's a good question.
It is. Something to think about.
And it speaks to a larger point, about staying informed. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to safety.
Right.
Understanding these publications, it's the first step to making sure those fires we all love, they're burning safely and efficiently.
Well said. I think we've covered Chapter 2 pretty thoroughly.
You did a good job.
Let me tell you, Chapter 3 alone is packed.
Oh, it's a glossary galore.
With definitions.
It really is.
So to keep things manageable in this deep dive, we're focusing on 10 key terms that really jumped out at us, going through them in order as they appear in the chapter.
Sounds good.
And these terms, they might seem a little dry at first.
Yeah.
But they're really, they're the foundation for understanding.
Absolutely.
The whole standard.
Think of it like this. If you were building a house,
yeah,
these definitions, they're like the building blocks for a safe and cozy fireplace.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, the building blocks of a cozy fireplace.
Right.
So let's start decoding.
Let's get into it.
With the first term on our list.
Right.
Listed.
All right.
And the NFPA 211 defines this as equipment or materials to which has been attached a label, symbol, or other identifying mark of an organization that is acceptable to the authority having jurisdiction.
Okay.
And concerned with product evaluation. That maintains periodic inspection of production of labeled equipment or materials, and by whose labeling the manufacturer indicates compliance with appropriate standards or performance in a specified manner.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
Use a mouthful.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
So basically, listed just means that a third party has checked it out
That's
and
it.
said, yep, this meets the safety standards.
Okay.
It's like a seal of approval. Think of, like UL or Intertech as examples of those organizations.
Gotcha. So when I see a little UL symbol or a little Intertech symbol on like a fireplace insert
Yes.
or a chimney liner,
Absolutely.
that's a good sign.
It is a good sign.
All right, so that's listed.
All right, what's next?
Next on the list, we have shall.
Shall.
And this is where things get a little interesting
Okay.
because there is no definition in the document specifically for shall.
Right. But shall is used all over the place.
It's everywhere.
It is. So in the world of building codes, shall implies
Right.
that it is a mandatory requirement.
Okay, it's not a suggestion.
No. It's not a suggestion. It's the law.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You know what's interesting about shall? It actually has an interesting historical tie
Oh, wow.
to Old English building codes, right?
Interesting.
Back then, shall was akin to like a royal decree
Oh, wow.
from the King of England.
Oh, wow.
So when they said shall, they meant it.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
So even though we don't have kings anymore,
Right.
you still got to obey the shalls.
You got it, especially in the NFPA 211.
Okay, gotcha. Shall equals law.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to our next term, readily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And same situations before. This term is not defined specifically in the NFPA 211 document.
No, but that doesn't mean it's not important.
Right.
So readily accessible, this comes up a lot in the context of inspections and
Okay.
maintenance. It basically means you should be able to get to something, like a clean outdoor
Okay.
or a chimney flue easily and safely
Yeah.
without needing special tools or having to dismantle anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes me think of that time my friend tried to inspect his own chimney.
Oh, no.
He ended up like crawling through this tiny attic space covered in insulation just to reach the clean out door.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was not readily accessible.
That's not what we want.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
No, we want it to be easy to get to, not only for routine maintenance, but
Mhm.
also for emergency situations.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our next term, combustion air.
Okay.
And this one does have a definition in the document, and it's pretty straightforward. The air necessary for combustion. But why is this so important? I mean, we all know fire needs air to burn.
Right. But it's not just about keeping the fire going.
Okay.
It's about making sure the fire is burning completely and safely.
Gotcha.
If a fireplace doesn't have enough combustion air,
Oh,
you can get incomplete burning, which then produces dangerous byproducts
Like?
carbon monoxide.
oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's a silent killer.
Okay, yeah. So good ventilation is super important
It's crucial.
for supplying enough combustion air.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on to our fifth term, appliance.
Okay.
This is defined in the NFPA 211 as a device that utilizes electric energy or burns fuel. Now, that seems pretty broad.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about here?
So in the context of the NFPA 211, appliance usually refers to things like fireplaces,
Okay,
wood stoves, furnaces,
gotcha.
boilers, even things like incinerators.
Wow, so it's not just like the stove in my kitchen or the refrigerator.
Right. It's anything that's, producing heat, whether it's using electricity or burning fuel like wood or gas.
So much broader than I initially thought.
Is.
All right, on to the next term. BTU, which stands for British Thermal Unit.
Yeah.
And this one is defined in the NFPA 211 as the quantity of heat needed to raise the temperature of 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Got it. But what does that actually mean in practical terms?
Okay, so imagine you're heating a cup of tea.
Okay.
The BTU rating on your stove burner tells you how quickly and efficiently it can heat that water.
Oh,
So a higher BTU rating means faster heating.
gotcha. So when I'm looking for a new fireplace insert, I should definitely be paying attention to that BTU number.
Absolutely. You'll want to choose a BTU rating that's right for the size of the room you're trying to heat.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have chimney cap.
Chimney cap.
Now this one's defined in the NFPA 211 as a protective covering or housing for the top of a chimney intended to prevent the entry of rain, snow, animals, and birds, and to prevent downdrafts. So basically, it's like a hat for your chimney, right? Yeah, you can think of it like that. But chimney caps, they do more than just keep out the squirrels.
Okay.
They also play a big role in preventing downdrafts, which can send smoke back into your house.
Okay. Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, and also keep out rain and snow, which can damage the chimney structure and liner.
So a good chimney cap is a must-have.
It really is.
All right, so moving on to our next term, masonry chimney.
All right.
And this one's defined in the NFPA 211 as a field-constructed chimney of solid masonry units, bricks, stones, listed system components, or reinforced concrete. So this is like the classic chimney, the one we all picture in our minds, right?
Exactly. It's that classic brick chimney.
Yeah, so charming, you know. But what are the pros and cons of going with a masonry chimney these days?
Well, they have a really classic appeal,
Mm-hmm.
and they offer excellent heat retention,
All right.
but they do require proper construction,
Yeah,
a bit more maintenance.
gotcha.
They can be susceptible to cracks and deterioration over time,
Oh, okay.
especially if they're not built correctly.
Yeah, so finding a qualified mason is crucial then.
Absolutely. You don't want to cut corners on that.
Okay, on to something a little more elemental, combustion.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, the NFPA 211 doesn't define combustion in Chapter 3.
Yeah, it's actually defined in Chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
But essentially, it's, a chemical process between a substance and an oxidant, usually oxygen,
Okay.
to produce heat and light.
So it's basically the science behind what happens when we light a fire.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So, if there isn't enough oxygen present during combustion, that can lead to the formation of carbon monoxide.
Oh, right, which is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
So back to that ventilation again, making sure there's enough oxygen.
Absolutely.
All right, and last but not least, for this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we have crown. And this one's defined in the NFPA 211 as a sloped covering for the top of a masonry chimney that is designed to shed water away from the flue liner and the chimney and to allow expansion and movement of the flue liner. So that's like a little hat for your chimney.
That's a good way to put it.
Keeping it dry.
Yeah.
Keeping it protected from the elements.
Absolutely. It's super important for preventing water damage,
Okay.
which can lead to all sorts of structural problems down the road.
And there was something in the document about specific construction requirements for these crowns, right?
Yes, there is. The document actually mentions ASTM C1283,
Okay.
which is a standard that outlines those requirements.
So it's not just, slap any old crown on there.
All right.
It has to be built to a specific standard.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
Listed appliances, the importance of shall, the accessibility of components,
Mhm.
how things like combustion air and BTUs affect fireplace performance.
Yeah,
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know. There's a lot more to come.
I know, it's exciting. I can't wait to learn more about all these fascinating terms and how they play a role in keeping our fireplaces and chimneys safe and efficient.
Me too. I'm looking forward to diving into the rest of the list.
This is great. I'm learning so much.
Me too.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick pause here,
Okay.
but be sure to join us for part 2 of our deep dive into the NFPA 211 standard, where we'll continue to decode the language of chimneys and fireplaces.
Sounds good.
See you soon.
See ya. Welcome back to our deep dive into chimney and fireplace terminology. Are you ready for more?
I'm actually starting to feel a lot more confident
Yeah.
about understanding all this jargon.
Good.
It's great. Who knew there was so much to learn about these,
Yeah.
seemingly simple structures?
More than meets the eye, right?
It is. So what's next on our list of definitions?
Let's talk about clearance.
Clearance.
Yeah, so clearance refers to the minimum distance required
Okay.
between your fireplace, chimney, or any heat-producing appliance,
Mm-hmm.
and any combustible materials.
So like wood framing.
Exactly. Wood framing, insulation,
Okay.
furniture, curtains, anything that could potentially catch fire.
Oh, wow. I never really thought about that.
It's important.
I mean, it makes sense. You wouldn't want a super hot fireplace right next to a wooden beam.
Right,
Or a
exactly.
stack of firewood.
And these clearances, they're carefully calculated
Okay.
based on the heat output of the appliance
Mm.
and the flammability of the surrounding material.
Oh, wow. So there's like actual science behind this?
There is.
It's not just common sense?
The NFPA 211 standard, it actually provides detailed tables
Okay.
and diagrams that specify those minimum clearances.
So it's not just like, oh, just eyeball it, make sure it looks far enough away.
Nope, there are regulations in place.
Gotcha. Very important.
Yeah, and if you're ever unsure,
Yeah.
always best to consult with a qualified professional.
Okay, good advice. All right, what's next?
How about connector?
Connector. Okay, I feel like we might have touched on this one already.
We did briefly when we talked about the pipe
Right.
that connects the fireplace to the chimney.
Okay.
But officially, a chimney connector is defined as that portion of a venting system connecting a fuel-burning appliance to a chimney
Okay, so it's the bridge between the fireplace and the outside world,
Exact.
carrying away all those,
All those combustion products.
Right, right. But why is it called a connector? It's just a pipe, right?
Well, it's called a connector because it literally connects the appliance to the chimney,
Okay,
but it needs to be properly sized, installed, and maintained
gotcha.
to ensure that it's venting safely and efficiently.
Okay, so it's more than just a pipe.
It is.
It's a crucial component of the system.
Absolutely.
Got it. So what's next?
Well, speaking of venting, let's talk about draft.
Draft, like a cold breeze coming down the chimney.
Well, it can feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But in this context, draft refers to the flow of air and combustion products through the chimney system.
Okay.
It's what pulls the smoke and gases up and out of the fireplace.
So good draft equals a smoke-free fireplace.
Exactly. And good draft is essential
Okay.
for safe and efficient operation of the fireplace. It prevents those, smoke and carbon monoxide from entering your living space.
Right. Very important.
Yeah.
This is making me realize how important chimney design is.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about, aesthetics.
It's about safety and functionality.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knew there was so much science involved in just getting a good fire going?
Right. There's a lot to it.
Okay, so what's next on our list?
How about factory built?
Factory built. So they make fireplaces in factories now.
They do, yeah. A factory-built chimney is defined as a chimney that is factory-made and listed.
Okay.
They're often made of metal or precast concrete, and they're designed for easy installation.
So it's like the modern, streamlined version of a traditional masonry chimney.
You can think of it like that,
Yeah.
yeah. And they've become really popular
Yeah, I can see why.
because they're, easy to install, often lower cost,
Okay.
and they perform really well.
Are there any downsides to going with a factory-built chimney?
Well, they might not have the same aesthetic appeal as a brick chimney.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And depending on the materials, they might not have the same lifespan as a well-constructed masonry chimney.
Gotcha, so it's a trade-off
Yeah, it is.
between convenience, aesthetics, and longevity.
Exactly. But ultimately, both masonry and factory-built chimneys can be safe and effective.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
All right, what's our next term?
Let's talk about flue.
Flue? Isn't that just the inside of the chimney?
That's right, but it has a more formal definition.
Right.
The passage in a chimney for conveying the products of combustion to the outside atmosphere.
So it's like the chimney's highway for all that smoke and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, and the flue needs to be properly sized and constructed to make sure there's good draft
Right.
and to prevent any blockages.
Absolutely.
So a well-maintained flue is essential
It is.
for both safety and efficiency.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's next?
Let's talk about fuel.
Fuel.
Yeah.
You mean like the wood I burn in my fireplace?
Yeah, wood is a common fuel, but the NFPA 211 covers a wide range of fuels.
Oh, okay.
Natural gas, propane, oil, pellets.
So the type of fuel I use can actually impact the design and installation of my fireplace and chimney.
Absolutely. The system needs to be designed to handle the specific fuel being used
Okay, makes sense.
to ensure safety and efficiency.
So a chimney that's designed for wood burning might not be suitable for a gas fireplace.
Right, exactly.
Okay, wow, there's so many things to think about.
There is.
It's not just, light a fire and call it a day.
Right, there's a whole system in place.
Okay, so what's next?
Let's talk about gas appliance categories.
Gas appliance categories. That sounds pretty specific.
It is.
Okay.
So the NFPA 211 classifies gas appliances into 4 categories
Okay.
based on their venting requirements.
So it's all about making sure that those gas fumes go where they're supposed to.
Exactly. Safety first.
Right, makes sense. What else is on our list?
Let's talk about hearth.
The hearth, the lovely spot where I curl up with a good book.
I know, it's cozy.
In front of the fire, but
But it's also a critical safety feature.
oh, okay.
It's defined as the non-combustible floor area in front of a fireplace.
So it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's about protecting the floor from embers and heat.
Exactly.
Okay.
It needs to be made of a non-combustible material like tile, stone, or brick, and extend a certain distance from the fireplace opening.
So it's like a safety buffer zone
Exactly.
between the fire and my very flammable rug.
Precisely.
Okay, so hearth check. What else do we have?
How about height?
Height. You mean how tall the chimney is?
Exactly. The height of the chimney is a critical factor
Yeah.
in ensuring proper draft.
So taller chimney, generally better draft.
Generally, yes,
Okay.
because a taller chimney creates a greater difference in air pressure
Mhm.
between the bottom and the top of the chimney,
Gotcha.
which helps to draw those combustion products up and out.
Wow, okay, I'm learning so much today. It's amazing.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It really is. So we've covered clearance, connectors, draft, factory-built chimneys, flues, fuel types, gas appliance categories, hearths, even the height of the chimney.
We have, and we still have a few more to go.
Oh, wow. My brain is getting full. But in a good way?
I know, right?
This is great. All right, well, I guess we'll take a quick break,
All right.
and then we'll come back for the final part
Sounds good.
of our deep dive into the NFPA 211 standard,
All right.
and we'll cover those last few terms.
Looking forward to it.
All right, see you soon.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. Ready to finish strong.
Let's do it. We've got some interesting terms to cover in this last batch.
Okay, so what's first up on our list?
How about lining systems?
Lining systems. Okay.
Yeah, so these refer to the materials that are used to create a protective barrier inside the chimney.
Oh, okay, so it's like the stuff that lines the inside of the chimney walls?
Exactly. So the NFPA 211 defines a chimney lining system as a listed factory-built component or a field-constructed system that forms a conduit for conveying flue gases to the outside atmosphere.
Okay, so a lot of big words there. What does that actually mean?
Basically, it's all about protecting the chimney walls from the heat and those corrosive gases
Okay.
that the fire produces.
Right.
And also making sure those combustion products
Ah,
are vented properly to the outside.
so it's like a suit of armor for the inside of the chimney,
That's a great way to think about it.
keeping it safe from all that heat and those nasty byproducts.
Exactly. And there are different types of lining systems
Oh, okay.
to choose from depending on the type of fireplace and fuel you're using.
Okay.
Clay tiles, metal liners, cast-in-place concrete. Those are some common ones.
So choosing the right lining is important
Very important.
for both safety and performance.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on to the next term, and I think I've seen this one before. Listed. Didn't we already talk about listed?
We did, you're right.
Yeah, like way back at the beginning.
Take a beginning, yeah.
Our deep dive.
But remember, we talked about listed appliances in the context of third-party testing and safety certifications.
Right.
But listed can also apply to individual components and materials.
Oh,
So not just the fireplace itself,
Gotcha.
but also things like chimney liners, chimney caps,
Right.
even those masonry units we talked about.
That's basically making sure that those individual pieces and parts have been checked out for safety.
Exactly. It's like having a double layer of assurance
Gotcha.
that everything's been vetted.
So I should be looking for that listed label, not just on the fireplace itself, but on any components I buy separately.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good to know. All right, what's next?
Let's talk about mantle.
Mantle. Okay. The place where I put all my family photos.
That's right, and all those holiday decorations.
Exactly. But the NFPA 211 also points out that mantles can be a fire hazard.
Oh, really?
If they're not installed properly
Right.
or if they're used improperly, I never really thought of the mantle as a safety concern.
It's easy to overlook,
Yeah.
but they can get really hot if they're too close to the fireplace opening.
Right.
And they can also accumulate soot and creosote,
Oh, okay.
which are flammable.
That's not good.
So that's why the NFPA 211 specifies those minimum clearances between the mantle and the fireplace opening.
Right. To keep things safe.
Exactly.
Okay. Mantle safety check. What's next?
Let's revisit a term we talked about earlier, but from a slightly different angle.
Okay.
Masonry.
Masonry. All right.
So we talked about masonry chimneys.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones constructed of brick, block, stone.
Right.
But NFPA 211 also uses the term masonry to refer to the individual units,
Okay.
the building blocks themselves.
Okay. So it's like the difference between the cake
Yes,
and the ingredients
that's a great way to put it.
that make up the cake.
And just like with a cake,
Yeah.
the quality of the ingredients matters. So the quality of the masonry units and the skill of the mason who installs them can really impact the chimney.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about picking brick over stone or whatever.
Right.
It's about making sure those materials are good quality and they're installed correctly.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. All right, what's next?
Let's talk about mechanical draft.
Mechanical draft. Okay, is that like a fancy fan for the chimney?
You're on the right track. So mechanical draft refers to any system that uses a fan or blower to help with the flow of air and combustion products through the chimney system.
Okay.
So it can improve draft in situations where natural draft isn't enough.
Okay, like maybe in a really tightly sealed house or something?
Exactly, or when venting appliances with lower flue gas temperatures.
Okay.
So it's basically giving the chimney a little extra help.
Gotcha. To make sure those combustion products are vented out properly?
Precisely, but these systems, they require proper installation and maintenance.
Okay, good to know. All right, what else is on our list?
How about metal chimney?
Metal chimney. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know we talked about factory-built chimneys,
Yeah.
which are often made of metal.
Right.
So is this just another name for the same thing?
Not necessarily. While factory-built chimneys are often made of metal,
Mm-hmm.
metal chimney can also refer to chimneys that are built on-site using metal components.
Oh, okay, so it's a broader category. Yeah.
Exactly. And these are often used for industrial applications
Okay.
or for venting those appliances with high flue gas temperatures.
So it's like, as long as it's metal, it falls under this category.
Pretty much.
Okay, gotcha. All right, what's next?
Let's talk about spark arrestor.
Spark arrestor. That sounds kind of intense.
It is an important safety feature.
Okay, tell me more.
So these devices are designed to prevent sparks and embers
Mm-hmm.
from escaping the chimney
Oh,
and potentially igniting anything nearby.
so like my roof or some nearby trees.
Exactly.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, they're especially important for fireplaces and appliances that burn wood. Okay.
Or other solid fuels.
Okay. Spark arrestor check. What else do we have?
How about vent?
Vent. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that seems pretty general.
It does.
But I'm assuming it has a specific meaning in the context of NFPA 211.
You are correct. So we're not talking about your attic vents
Right.
or the vents in your car.
Okay.
We're talking about the systems for venting appliances that don't need a full chimney,
Okay.
like gas water heaters, furnaces, maybe some types of clothes dryers.
Oh, okay. So it's a smaller, more specialized venting system
Yeah, got it.
for those specific appliances.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. And I think this is our last one, right?
It is. Our last term is vent connector.
Vent connector, okay. So if a chimney connector connects a fireplace to the chimney, a vent connector connects.
An appliance to a vent?
An appliance to a vent.
You got it.
Wow, it really is all about making those connections.
It is.
To keep things running safely and efficiently.
Exactly. And just like chimney connectors,
Mm-hmm.
vent connectors need to be properly sized, installed, and maintained. All right, vent connector check. Well, that brings us to the end of our list
We did it.
and the end of our deep
It
dive
covered a lot of ground.
into the NFPA 211 standard.
I know, from listed all the way to vent connector.
It's amazing. I feel like I've learned so much
Me too.
about chimneys and fireplaces and all the terminology that goes along with them.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. It really is. And it's so important to understand these terms
Absolutely.
because it helps us make informed decisions
Yes.
about our fireplaces and chimneys and keep things safe.
Safety first.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the NFPA 211 standard. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns about your fireplace or chimney, be sure to reach out to a qualified professional. Stay warm and stay safe out there.
See you next time.